There were no computers, and
Okay.
I feel you people to be simply an impediment to my existence.
Okay.
Are we ready?
Yeah.
I would ask everyone who's going to testify if they could stand and be sworn, please. That would be
I'm
useful.
testifying.
You promise to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Okay. For the record, my name is Michael McHenry, and I will be the hearing officer today. I will be conducting this hearing on the application that you have filed. I am required to evaluate this application based on the evidence, the testimony presented, as well as the applicable standards, which we will cover later. Based on the evidence, I will either recommend approval, modified approval, or denial. There will be a record made today of this, so I would ask that you keep your voice up and speak clearly so we have a good record of it. After my recommendation, this will go to the county board. If I recommend approval, then you will simply need a majority of the county board members who would be attending that meeting, and that meeting would be
December 19th.
You don't have to attend. You would likely be on what's called the consent agenda with other items, and the county board would address that with the other items kind of in one fell swoop. If I were to deny your request, you would need 3/4 of the members who would attend us at that particular meeting. And there are a few simple rules. This is not an adversarial proceeding. You will be under oath. You're required to testify under oath. We're not going to follow strict rules of evidence, but if I ask you a question that requires a yes or no, please don't shake your head or say, mm-hmm. You have to have a clear yes or no. For the record, would you state your name, please?
Michael Clark.
And Michael, where do you live?
1611 West May.
Okay. Is that house or property currently available to be lived in, or is it under construction?
We have occupancy.
Okay. And what are you hoping to do today?
Gain approval for a 5-foot encroachment.
And what would be the potential type of structure that would be potentially encroaching?
A non-conditioned staircase.
And can you identify, let me strike that. What's on the screen is basically a vacant lot that was before construction began, is that correct?
Yes.
Do you have anything showing the current?
I have photographs. That helps.
With that grouping of photographs, where would this staircase be located?
The staircase is located on the bottom left photo. If you see a man door there,
Okay.
that is the staircase, and what you see outside of it is a sheet of plywood to enclose it, making it a non-conditioned staircase.
So the posts for the potential staircase are already in place pursuant to the two bottom left photographs?
No, sir, those posts are fence posts. The staircase is that door in the bottom left photo, and then the posts are the fence.
Here's the door. You see it?
Not all of it. Okay.
Okay.
Is it? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so the door is what I'm seeing, the white door at the very bottom left.
Yes.
And then the posts, the shorter posts that are in place would be for the fence line.
Yes.
And the structure that's to the right of those fence posts would be your neighbor's property?
Yes.
Okay. Can we show a bigger picture of the property?
The site plan?
Yeah, can you show one that, okay.
Oops.
Where on the site plan would the staircase be located? Could you step up and just show us?
Yes, absolutely. So here is a 10-foot building setback, which my building is in compliance of. Here is the staircase that's on piers. So its primary function and its only function is passageway into the building from grade to the second floor. Originally, this is a unenclosed staircase. We pulled the roof over it because we were worried about safety. Once we plywooded the side, Kim had concerns that it was now part of the building envelope. So that is why I'm going for a variance here. So there's 6 feet separation between the properties, and this is a B1 property as well. So my mentality is B1 is your in-town merchant zoning. A lot of times they share demising walls. They share a wall, and you'll find them with a pub and a rental up top. So I don't know if we would think it would be completely inappropriate that staircase come into the building setback a little bit. So that's what we're proposing, as well as there's an air conditioner here, which would need to be included in the encroachment.
Were those items addressed? I'm assuming you've got a building permit. You've already started the structure, and you said you've got occupancy. Were those issues addressed in the building permit process, or why not?
So under the building permit application, the staircase was not going to be enclosed. And the ordinance does allow for encroachment 5 feet into the required setback for any unenclosed porch or staircase. It was once it was enclosed with the walls is when it triggered the need for the variance. So that was after the building permit was issued that it was enclosed.
That seems counterintuitive. It would seem that an enclosed staircase is safer than an unenclosed staircase, and would be more willing to allow for an enclosed staircase rather than one that was not. I mean, why?
I can't speak to why the ordinance is that way, but typically any enclosed space is treated differently than unenclosed.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Can I give a little
Sure.
a little background to how we ended up here? Is so when I'm reading the ordinance, and there was a bit of a field modification there, and originally the plywood went up just to keep everything dry. We slipped down the stairs a couple times because, like you said, it's a staircase to the element is not the safest. So, but we were interpreting the ordinance as an unenclosed porch is something that's open on 2 or more sides. So at the top and the bottom of that staircase are doors, and we put those in temporarily just to keep the heat in and everything. But we proposed that we would remove those, leaving the top and the bottom of the staircase open and shielding most of the weather from the staircase. And it was found that that's not the proper interpretation, so that's why we're here now. And to be totally honest with you, I would prefer to have the doors in at the top and the bottom anyway. So might as well just ask for your permission at this point, is where we're at.
In terms of the usage of the building, the first floor and the top floor, can you explain that, please?
Yeah, sure. The top floor is a residence, and then the bottom floor is a commercial space, of which we're using for tool storage right now for our contracting business.
You mentioned you work up in Minnesota at the present time.
Yes, yes I do.
What areas do you normally work in?
So my business, I work for a general contractor, as well as we subcontract for other general contractors. So my business itself, we have the things we need, and then which I keep in the garage, and then if there's a job out of state, yes, I go to that job and for 6 months, and then I'll come back home. But we're out of Fox Lake, Illinois, and
So your intention is to use the lower space for your business and not necessarily for some other business that might be?
At the present time, yes. I mean, maybe an accountant would want it one day, and or maybe so.
Not that it's horribly relevant, but did you talk to your neighbor about your request?
Yeah, they came over and they asked if we wanted them to come in and say that we've been polite and respectful and we try not to, we sodded it right away, so, you know, I know it needs siding, but that's superficial, so. We've talked to all of them, and the one neighbor who's probably the most concerned with the neighborhood, which is good, he thought that maybe it was, I don't want to say silly, I think is the word he used, so I don't think he had concern about the staircase being enclosed. He thought as well that it would only make sense that an unenclosed, because at first you think, well, the staircase is not enclosed, and then you start to think, well, it's going to be winter, and everyone pretty much agrees that why not keep it out of the element, so.
Is that the primary staircase to the second floor?
It is, and if you wanted to split hairs, it would be the only means of egress. So if we were to say maybe that would also contribute to a reason that it would be a good idea. And that the front balcony also has 2 sliding glass doors that'll come off the front for an additional means of egress. So that's primary entrance.
All right, for the record, this is the application 2023-039. Applicants are Timothy Ryan, owner of record, along with Michael W. Clark. The request is a variation within the B1 neighborhood business district to allow for a setback of 6 feet from the required 10 feet from the south lot line, as well as a setback of 3 feet from the minimum required 5 feet for permitted encroachment. The subject property consists of 0.19 acres, is located at the southwest corner of the intersection of West May Avenue, North Johnsburg Road, common address 1611 West May, Johnsburg, Illinois, in the township of McHenry. Tax ID or PIN would be 10-07-380-013. The current land use is mixed use on the current land use map. Adjacent land use would be single-family residential to the north, south, and west, commercial to the east. The current zoning for the property would be B1 Neighborhood Business District. The adjacent zoning would be Village of Johnsburg to the north, B1 Neighborhood Business to the south. To the east would be Village of Johnsburg. To the west would be R1 Single-Family Residential /LN. The 2030 plan designates this to be residential, and municipal plans would be Johnsburg, medium density residential, Lakemore, no designation. The property is currently improved with a recently constructed 2-story structure consisting of a first floor business use and a second floor residential use, as well as a driveway. No wetlands were found on the property. There are no floodplains on the property, no flood of record. And the existing structure was built under permit K3211. Occupancy is currently partial, pending use or approval of the requested variation. And if this is granted and approved, then they can get the completed certificate of occupancy. Before we get to the standards, Kim, what would you have to say about the request? It would seem to be a pretty straightforward request.
It is. Yeah, as I mentioned, the exterior staircase, the ordinance does allow for exits, staircases, things like that to be encroaching into the setback. But once it becomes an enclosed space, the variance is required, but it seems like a reasonable request. We haven't received any objections from any neighbors. He's also putting up a fence that will assist in the screening of the property, so staff does not have any objections.
And they seem to be trying to do this in the right way, correct?
Correct.
Yes,
correct.
Why would you?
Correct.
These are the standards that we have to go through. And if you pay attention to my question, you should be able to answer these correctly. Sir, isn't it true? He's paying attention. Isn't it true that the particular surrounding shape or topographical condition of the specific property involved would result in a particular hardship upon you, the owner, as distinguished from a mere inconvenience if the strict letter of the regulations were carried out? Isn't that true?
Yes.
And if this were denied, as you mentioned, you would have to have a staircase that could be more dangerous because it would be open to the elements, correct?
Yes, sir.
Isn't it also true that the conditions upon which the application for a variation are based are unique to the property for which the variation is sought and are not generally applicable to the property within the same zoning district? Isn't that true?
Yes.
You're doing well, by the way. Isn't it also true that strike that. Isn't it also true that the purpose of the variation is not based exclusively upon a desire to increase the monetary gain realized from the property? Isn't that true?
True.
You're really hoping to make this a safer entryway to the property, is that correct?
Yes.
And isn't it also true that the alleged difficulty or hardship is caused by the ordinance and has not been created by any person presently having an interest in the property? Isn't that true?
Yes.
And you have tried to follow the letter of the laws applied by the county zoning ordinance, isn't that true?
Yes.
Isn't it also true that, that the granting of the variation will not be detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to other property or improvements in the neighborhood in which the property is located? Isn't that true?
Yes.
And isn't it also true that the proposed variation will not impair an adequate supply of light and air to adjacent property or substantially increase the congestion in the public streets or increase the danger of fire or endanger the public safety or substantially diminish or impair property values within the adjacent neighborhood? Isn't that true?
Yes.
And actually what you're requesting will make things basically safer for the public should they tend to use that staircase.
Indeed.
Isn't it also true that the granting of the variation requested will not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied by this ordinance to other land or structure of the same zoning district? Isn't that true?
Yes.
If your neighbor had a similar request under similar circumstances, you would agree that their request should be granted. Isn't that true?
Yes, I would.
Anything else that you wish to say?
No, sir.
This is very straightforward, and he has tried to comply with all the requirements, and there are no objections to it. What he is doing makes sense, and I think that he has met the standards. I would be in favor of this request. So this will go to the county board, and that meeting would be?
December 19th.
And that would be the evening, is that correct?
Yes, it's a 7 p.m. meeting. You don't have to be there for that one.
But I can.
You can be if you want.
And you can certainly contact staff the day after to find out what happened.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be great.
Thank you much for your cooperation.
Thank you for your time.
I want to compliment you. You're a very intelligent man. You guys filled out the standards better than almost anyone I have seen in years.
No, that's a second shot at it because I filled it out first and said yes or no answers won't suffice. And then I did no, I might have had an attitude. And then when I redid it, I said no.